College Sports Talk plays.
What's up?
Oh, good to see you. Good to see you. I know Coach is happy about a comeback Tampa Bay win yesterday. We'll talk about that for sure. We usually talk about Monday Night Football up front, but there's a lot of college football news going on, so I want to bring that to the top of the show tonight. Two huge hirings over the weekend. Of course, the USC hiring of the former Oklahoma coach. Huge, just Lincoln Riley leaving the Big 12, going to the Pac-12. There's all sorts of rumors on why he left. What's the reason for leaving? We have our own theories. We were talking about this before, but let's talk about it again. So, Ray, you were saying something very cool. So, why is Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma to go out west?
Well, Pac-12 is known for offense, no defense. So his Oklahoma defense really don't play defense anyway. And, they're not very good in the top 10 of the defensive category in NCAA. So I think Lincoln Riley is running from the SEC because he was mentioned to take the LSU job, was offering them $96 million, 8 years at $96 million contract guaranteed. And he didn't take that contract. He spun that thing around. And then what happened in Bedlam. Oklahoma State is now catching up with Oklahoma, and he don't want to be around for that anyway, too. So then, we don't know if Bedlam is going to continue on because they're going to still be in the Pac-12. They're going to be in the SEC, too. So we don't know if that's going to be one of those keys to stay on. But I think Lincoln Riley is ducking the SEC.
He could be. And it's interesting. The other day there was a press conference. He said, I am not taking the LSU job. He came right out and said it. He didn't say he wasn't taking the USC job. So that's interesting. Coach, what are your thoughts on this deal?
First off, I think it's a smart move because anybody that especially live out in California, they know USC is king. Like that's everybody wants to go play at USC if you're from out in California.
Right.
I kind of disagree with Ray. I don't think that he's ducking the SEC, but I truly believe you gotta look at it as this. There's only 4 teams that can make the playoffs. And guess what? How many times out of the 4 times we had the playoffs where 2 SEC teams make the playoffs?
All the time, it seems like, yeah.
No, it's really been twice. It's been Georgia. It's been Georgia and Alabama play for the national championship. Other than that, it hasn't. So it's kind of like, if I go in the Pac-12 and I go undefeated in the Pac-12, I automatically get a bid in the top 4.
Right.
Regardless.
That's true. And plus, California is a big recruiting ground. A lot of great prospects out in California. He could really corner that market because a lot of those guys were coming east to play at these big programs. But now if he rebuilds the program at USC, it definitely could be something like that. Tony, our producer, is with us. How you doing, Tony?
Good. How about y'all?
Oh, it's good to see you. Good to see you. So what's your take on this? You're originally from that Midwest area. So how do you feel about this whole thing, him going out west?
I think it's a good idea for a couple different reasons. I kind of agree with Ray. I think he's a little bit hesitant as far as going to the SEC. And I say that because if I even look back at their previous schedule from like 2019, they didn't face anybody in the SEC. They faced all Big 12 teams. And I'm gonna kind of keep going as I'm looking at some of these other schedules. But I mean, think about it. Lincoln Riley basically got handed a phenomenal program from Bob Stoops that was successful from 1999 to 2016. Right. It's kind of like how Ryan Day is with Ohio State. Like Urban Meyer set up the program, Ryan Day has taken over. Now you're starting to see, this new group of kids that are graduating. Everybody that's come in after, this is all Ryan Day's people. So can Ryan Day actually prove if he's a good coach or not? Because Urban Meyer brought in the Bosa twins. He brought in Chase Young. He brought in Justin Fields. He brought in all these different guys to be these players there at Ohio State. Now can he sustain that success? And I think it's really the same thing with Lincoln Riley. Hey, this was Bob Stoops' team. He kept the same thing going. He had Baker, he had Kyler. Now he started to bring in his guy. He brought in Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler kind of failed. Doesn't really want to publicly endorse Williams as far as his quarterback goes. So to me, I think it's good for Lincoln because it's going to show he's going to go into the Pac-12. Like Coach said, he's going to have an opportunity to compete because there's really no big powerhouse team in the Pac-12 other than Oregon that he would really have to face. It's a program that they're going to throw money to. it's a place that everybody wants to go to as far as recruiting, as far as, pipeline goes. California is one of the best states to get people out of. Everybody wants to be in LA and in Southern California. So to me, it's going to give Lincoln Riley a chance to build his resume of, now I'm going to take a program that once was very competitive, has dropped off in the last, 5, 6, 7 years, has really been super competitive. If I can build them back up to relevancy, I am a great college coach. I didn't need, Bob Stoops to just hand me the keys to Oklahoma. I can be great at other places.
No, it's definitely a good point. What are you going to say, Coach?
But you gotta understand something. USC was down because they got in that they were giving kids money. Guess what? You can pay kids now. And I mean, one thing about it is the only knock is I'm curious who he's gonna have as his defensive coordinator, because he has to get some defensive players in. Offensively, he's gonna get the pick of the litter because he has. I mean, we can say if there was Stoops guys or not. You got CD Lamb, you got Brown, you got quarterbacks. You have what? 2 quarterbacks? Oh, I'm sorry. You got 4 quarterbacks. No, 3 quarterbacks right now. There's 3 in the league that's starting. Mm-hmm. And you got CD Lamb is considered one of the top. He's a known player. So I think that's one of the biggest things that he can sell. Like, hey, I did this in Oklahoma. Now we can do this where we can go to the beach after practice.
Now, Coach, here's my question. I got a question for you, though. Do you think that he kind of brings that Big 12 mentality of high-powered offense, just score as many as you can, and then defense just kind of goes to the wayside like it does in the Big 12? Or do you think he does bring in somebody that's more competitive?
He probably is. I don't, like I said. But you got to also realize something. You're not competing for Texas. You pretty much have a state of your own. Like, that's your state. Because, I mean, everybody, we can say, oh, USC this, but a lot of people love, in California, USC is like the place that you want to play. And because you got all the greats that came out of California, like for Reggie Bush, Keyshawn Johnson. Like, those are guys that still part of that team that still gonna talk to you. And so, like, for him, players that he needs. It's just who's going to be the defensive coordinator that's going to mold them guys. But offensively, man, I'm talking about he's going to get running backs, receivers. He's going to get the top of the litter because that's the only team. In Texas, like, it's a good day for University of Texas because they're like, oh, Oklahoma's out the picture because they don't have a coach.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's one of the biggest things that's important.
It's going to be interesting. I want to touch on something Tony said. Tony said about Ryan Day having Coach Urban Meyer's recruits, and that's absolutely true. If you read, there was a comment in the post game press conference in Michigan Ohio State that Coach Harbaugh came out with, saying that Ryan Day started on third base, where we started on first base, and yet now we just passed him running to home, which is. Basically, it was a dig on what you just said of Ryan Day having Coach Urban Meyer's recruits and not really having to, now that he's got his own guys, all of a sudden, there's a little slag in the system. So that's interesting that you pointed that out. The California football is very interesting because there's USC, UCLA. There's that big rivalry out there. The Pac-12 is an interesting conference because it is definitely a little more defensive. Not unlike the Big 12, which has basically been like no defense as we've seen. There've been some great defensive players that have come out of the Pac-12. So when it was the Pac-10, actually now it became the Pac-12. But it's going to be interesting bringing that Big 12 style of football to the West Coast with these West Coast players who might have wanted to play that running gun kind of offense, but now can stay home and do it. I think it's going to be a really interesting recruiting tool. And plus, we've seen the fallout already that Spencer Rattler's transferring from Oklahoma. There's about 3 guys that have already decommitted from Oklahoma. So the program is feeling it big time. So it should be a really interesting year next year. But Coach, you're talking about there's only 4 teams in the playoffs. They're going to be expanding to 12, which I think will make it even better for the Pac-12 because now they'll they were saying I think 2024 there was the talk. Is that right, Ray? Am I right on that? I think it was 2024, right? For the expansion of the playoff they're talking about.
Yes. 2024 season, maybe the 25 if they can get it all worked out. That's probably why
they're talking about getting the 12 teams.
And that's the thing. So now he's looking at it. He's going to make the playoffs every year.
Right.
Because as long as you're in the U.S., because what's your competition? Oregon? Oregon's really your only competition. You want to say Utah because Utah had a good year. I mean,
Right.
that's it. But again, like I said, when you're in Texas, you're competing with Alabama. You're competing with the University of Texas. You're competing with A&M. Hell, you're competing with LSU.
Texas
Right.
Tech.
Yeah, so you're competing with that. You're in California. The only team you're competing against is Oregon. So it's like he can flip it so fast to have all the skill guys that want to come out there just for the simple fact of the matter because they're coming home. That's the mecca.
Exactly. Now, speaking of the SEC, Bill Napier from Louisiana just got the Florida Gator job. An interesting jump from that smaller, Group of Five conference to the major conference of major conferences, SEC. Ray, why don't you comment on Coach Napier getting this job and moving into this conference? Because he built a great program over at Louisiana. I know that. So it should be interesting, his move to the SEC.
Yeah, the Lincoln Riley O'Dell spun LSU for a while, even though they could have had a chance to get Napier, as their head coach. I think leaving the backyard of that, I think Florida came in there and scooped him up real quick because, I think he would probably been really a next choice for LSU to go after. So I think Florida handled it pretty good. But the question I got with him is, can he deliver the 4 or 5-star recruits at IMG Academy, which is only 45 minutes right down the street from Gainesville?
Mhm.
And Mullins had a quarterback that was going to come, but he switched over to Georgia. So I mean, for IMG, the IMG Academy, man, that thing's got a lot of recruits in there because it's one of the private schools that allow other teams that got players know they're going to be a 5-star, 4-star recruit can
Mhm.
come in there and compete. And Danny Waffle actually runs that school.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, he's given all the tools and different things, and he has NFL players that come in to help during the off season to work with the guys. So I mean, that's going to be the big news right there. Can he go into the IMG Academy and start pulling these 4 or 5-star recruits? Because Florida started losing those Florida guys to like Alabama, to Georgia, to North.
Right.
Some of the Florida guys here out of Jacksonville goes to North Carolina, goes to North Carolina State. Goes out of state. Some goes down to Miami. But can Florida go back and kick in their recruits coming out? Getting these 5-star recruits coming back down there. So I mean, that's going to be the question there. And the facility they got coming up is supposed to open next year. Is their indoor practice facility, and they've been lacking facilities, so that's going to be a little bit of a good recruiting. But they still need to upgrade their stadium. The swamp. The swamp is old. And, they need to start updating some of their more facilities towards football and They updated the basketball facilities,
Right.
so now it's time to update the football facilities.
Oh yeah, definitely. But going from the conference, I think Louisiana, were they on the conference? Were they in Conference USA, if I'm correct, or were they in the Sun Belt? I can't remember. But
I think Sunbelt, if I remember.
yeah, I think they're in the Sun Belt. But going from, I mean, it's a big step going from like that conference, any smaller conference, to the SEC. I mean, the SEC is basically known as the minor leagues of the NFL, as we've seen. So Coach, I mean, does a coach like this, taking his program, taking his style of play, knowing what the SEC is, I mean, is he going to go in there with his own program, or does he have to adjust it? I mean, how do you approach going from a small program to that?
I think it's the same. One thing about it, when you go to small programs, you pretty much have to do everything. You don't have the backing, so you have to, delegate with coaches and everything else. Now you probably have with Florida, as big as it is, you got a system going because it's a multi-million-dollar business. Because once it's in the SEC again, so I think with him is now he understands. Now he has help. Now he has probably a recruiting fund where it's like, hey, I have $1 million or $2 million to go out and fly all over the world and get these kids in and spend money. Like that's one of the things. Like you take Georgia, they said Georgia has a $3.5 million recruiting fund, so to get the top. So I think that's one thing about him. It's just for him. I mean, these kids nowadays are weird, man, especially in Florida. Because you never see. It's been a long time since you've seen Florida good, Miami good at the same time. It's like it's like a cycle, but everybody's been skipped. Right. So I truly, truly believe that I think he can do it. Like you said, you got to go to IMG. Not even just IMG, you need to go in these hoods. Right. These small kids that get looked over by bigger schools and go somewhere else. So, like, you know, when UCF was balling, they were nobody.
Right.
So you just got to go. He just got to go and search and just dig and just have a system.
So what you're saying is that these coaches who are finding these gems at these small schools, who are now at these big schools, they know where to find these gems and can get these guys to the bigger schools, is what you're saying, right?
Yes. Because it's like I said, one of the most important things, because kids like the glamour, they like to shine, and like he said, they need to probably redo the swamp. They probably redoing the workout facilities. They like all that stuff.
Right.
That looks good. They like how they look nowadays.
Exactly. No, that's true. All right. One more college story we've got going on. It just broke a little while ago. Brian Kelly to LSU. Big hire. Interesting, you know, to think about that, you know, going from Notre Dame, which is a football institution, all of a sudden to another SEC school. Tony, you know, I mean, how do you evaluate the move as far as going from Notre Dame, which is like, you know, the football mecca, as they call it sometimes, to LSU, which has been a great program and had like one down year, a little controversy. Now Brian Kelly's going right to the swamp, right in the middle of the swamp.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of hit and miss with it because if I look at Brian Kelly's resume, did he kind of turn Notre Dame around? Yes, but he didn't really make Notre Dame actual competitors. We saw almost every year Notre Dame went to the playoffs. What happened? Notre Dame got absolutely destroyed by any type of big team that they play. They finally decided to join the ACC last year. Didn't really do anything with it. They always play the independent schedule. Ray kind of brought it up last show because the fact that they have the deal with NBC Sports, so they always want those NBC Sports. You can't really join the Big Ten because Big Ten primarily has Fox copyrights. You go pretty much the SEC, Pac-12, anything like that, you're going on to ESPN. So Notre Dame is going to primarily stick with NBC. To me, it'll prove whether or not he is actually a good head coach for a team that can be a perennial contender. Because like I mentioned to Ray, to me, LSU kind of reminds me of like the collegiate version of like the Dallas Cowboys. Whether they're relevant or not, whether they're good or not, everybody talks about LSU, whereas almost always the attention focused on whether LSU is complete hot garbage that year or not. It's always on LSU, and it's always LSU versus Bama. They're the two of the biggest teams that draw the interest, that draw all the money, the viewership. So, I mean, for him, it gets him in the spotlight. But I think he's going to have to struggle a little bit because, okay, you do have to play in the big boy conference, the NFL minor leagues. You have to go up against the Georgias. You have to go up against the Bamas, the Floridas, the Arkansas. You have to go up against all these SEC teams. You're not going to have that many cupcake schedules when you're in the SEC. So to me, it's really going to prove whether or not he can be a good head coach and get the best out of his players. From what I've seen in Notre Dame, I mean, they're good enough to be ranked, but I don't think they're ever good enough to actually go into the playoffs and be any type of competitive with it.
Interesting. And of course, 24 minutes in, Tony had to drop a Cowboy reference. So there you go.
I have to do it just for Freddie every time.
It's all good. So now this poses an interesting question, and we're going to move on to the college. This week's college rankings come out tomorrow. Now, obviously, Cincinnati has been the wild card in this whole thing. So now Georgia won, Alabama won, Michigan won, Oklahoma State won, Notre Dame won, and Cincinnati won. So I'm going to go around to each of you. Who are your top four at this point? Who are your top four in the playoffs? We'll start with Ray. Who do you have in your top four?
I got Georgia, Michigan. I have Alabama number 3, and I have Cincinnati number 4.
Okay. I think we're all consensus that Georgia's going to be number 1. Coach, what about you?
I got Georgia, Bama, Michigan, and Cincy.
All right, Tony.
I got Georgia, I have Michigan, I have Cincy, and then I have Bama at 4.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. That's my 4 right now. With Oklahoma State at 5, Notre Dame at 6. Now, here's the interesting question. If Cincinnati does not make the playoff, does the Cincinnati coach take the Notre Dame job or the Oklahoma job? What do you think? Do you think he'll be offered the job?
No,
even if they go undefeated, they might be undefeated and not make the playoff because of their schedule, their strength of schedule. Oklahoma State has a better strength of schedule, and if they go on and win the Big 12, they're saying that their strength of schedule will put them over Cincinnati. And obviously that's if Alabama loses to Georgia, which they probably will.
Well, Finkel has just came out and said that he's not going to be any coaching job. He's going to stay at Cincinnati because they're moving to the Pac-12. That's where he wants to stay at. Mel Tucker just signed a new deal, 10-year extension at Michigan State. He said he's out.
Franklin signed his deal.
James Franklin's just signed his deal at Penn State. So that leaves them out because if you look at Mel Tucker's deal, Mel Tucker's got a payout deal of $2.5 million. But if he goes like to an SEC school or to any other school in a Power 5 or a big time school, he has to pay additional $2.5 million out of his guaranteed $96 million contract that he just got. Because his contract is guaranteed.
I think he's gonna stay.
Yeah,
I think the worst job is the Notre Dame job, and the other reason because you can't recruit. Like the rule is so many. Like there's a lot of kids that you got to X out because it's just the rules that they have in place for Notre Dame. And that was the one thing that, like Kelly said, he was like, the hardest thing is the recruiting part because I can't just go talk to any kid. I got to make sure their grades is right. I got to make sure their background is right because it's so much just to get into school.
No, exactly. They've got a lot of rules, and that's true. But think about it. If Cincinnati gets pushed out of the playoffs, if a coach like this can have an opportunity to coach in a group of 5 conference and have a better chance of getting into the playoffs, even though if he doesn't want to wait around for the expansion, he's like, well, I can't sit around for 2 more years and wait. This would be the opportunity if he can't make the playoffs and be like, well, I'm getting screwed here. You know, that's how I look at it.
I think they'll make the playoffs. Like they'll win. They win Saturday. I think they'll make it. I think the biggest question is going to be pretty much the Bama Georgia game.
Yes,
that's going to be really the game. Like I said, if Bama wins, of course they're in. If Bama, and the question goes, and I can maybe ask you, Ray, if Bama lose by 3, a game when it's still goes, do you keep it in? Or if they lose in double overtime, keep it in?
No, this is my thing. I don't think Alabama's going to be in the game. I think Georgia's going to take it. And the reason why I said that is because if you look at Bryce Young, you know Bryce Young and all that. But if you look at the last game, Auburn got pressure up the middle. Bryce Young could not handle the middle pressure. And guess who Georgia's got up there? Big Davis. Big Davis has been double teamed, triple teamed, and almost single-handedly he's broken all 3 of those blocks by himself. And he's got a decent enough speed to catch a person going on the toss sweep. I've seen that a couple of times. And the way Georgia plays their defense, they play it off on Davis. Davis forced them out. And if they roll either to the right or to the left, Georgia's going to right there side. If Robinson cannot go for Alabama because he got re-injured in that Auburn game, if he cannot go in this game, that's going to hamper Alabama's offense.
But let me ask you this: who's Georgia's daddy?
Yeah, but they ain't got a backup quarterback.
No, don't matter. Who's Georgia's daddy?
Hold up. The last 2 years that they met in a championship game, Alabama had to change the quarterback to actually beat Georgia.
Don't matter.
Twice.
But who won?
Yeah, Alabama won because they changed the quarterback.
Georgia's daddy. Like you look at
I think Kirby Smart's got, and I think Davis. I don't think Alabama's got enough because they got a mixed up offensive line. I don't think they have enough power to block Davis. Davis is a 340-some-odd-pound beast.
I'm not knocking. I'm not knocking what you're saying. I agree with you 100%. I'm just asking, who is Georgia's daddy?
Well, I can tell you that Alabama, it's always going to be that, but this year is totally different because now Georgia's got the team and Nick Saban is crying over there because he's got to have to figure a way. His offensive coordinator and Brian, he's got to figure out how to stop Big Davis. Davis has turned defensive, and you can ask all the defensive coordinators around. He played Georgia. Tennessee was about the best one to get score on him. No.
I agree with you. But I will say this one thing about Nick Saban. Nick Saban, and I've heard plenty of stories. Nick Saban's one of them guys. They're gonna work 24 hours around the clock, and on top of that, because I think they were saying how he'll give you a list of like the lunches. You got to circle one, and then they'll bring the food to what you want to eat. Like we're gonna figure this out, like by any means necessary. He said, okay, this Auburn game look like this, and that. We're going to figure it out. I just wanted to know, you still ain't told me. Who?
No, I don't think 11 and – I'm going to tell you, it depends on this. if Georgia wins by a field goal, I don't think Alabama's going to be in unless one of the other teams like Cincinnati loses. That's just the only way. That's the only way it's possible because I understand what you're saying. And if you look at this year too, the polls have been biased towards Alabama because Alabama lost to an unranked Texas A&M team, and he only dropped six spots out of the ranking. Everybody else who lost to an unranked team either dropped 10 or 8 spaces. So I mean, they're keeping Alabama in that little area though. So I'm gonna tell you like it is. If Cincinnati loses, Alabama could be in if they only have 3-point loss.
Like I said, only reason I really just truly believe they keeping Alabama in because it's like, okay, do you really want to see Oklahoma State again try or a Big 12 team come? I think that's really one of the biggest issues.
Not gonna have an ACC team. This is the first time the ACC missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to take a short pause for the cause. We got a little ad we're going to run, and we will be right back in about 30 seconds.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
All right. So as you all see, we have merch. So go to our website, check out our merchandise store. You could buy your merchandise and walk around showing off the ASAP logo and talking about the network and all that stuff. So let's move on to the league where they play for a little bit of money, a little bit of cash money. It was a crazy weekend in the NFL. Not too many real upsets, but some really good games. Let's talk about the Tampa and Indianapolis game. Tampa came back, won this game, and once again, Tom Brady has the Colts number. No matter what jersey he's wearing, he still seems to be able to take it to the Colts. Good game, Tom Brady's just, he had a couple losses there, but he seems to have recovered. Seems to be playing better. Gronk was playing out of his mind yesterday. So, Coach, you're a Bucs fan, so everyone was saying, a couple weeks ago, everyone's like, oh, Tom Brady, whatever. No, he just took a little break, a little pause during the season, but now it looks like he's back and just running and gunning it.
No, we're getting healthy. You got Gronk back. One of the things you got Gronk back. That's a big difference. You got that big tight end. AB's gonna come back soon. Like our biggest thing, and I said it, and Tony hears me say it all the time. We're probably gonna lose maybe 2 more games. Mm-hmm. We're gonna lose 2 more games because one thing I would say about the Bucs, what they like to do, they like to try stuff, especially defensively. Because you looked at when they played Kansas City last year, what's the name thrashed them in the first half. They try things because they know one, we're gonna have to play them again in the playoffs. The Saints beat them twice last year. Guess what happened? They beat them in the playoffs because they kind of understand what they got. Secondary is getting healthy. You can't run on us. And so, I mean, that was the biggest issue about the Colts. You go all the way up into the fourth quarter. Your best running back in the game right now only had 8 carries for 25 yards.
Right.
And then the one drive you decided to have it, he had 80-some yards and he had 16, 17 carries. So, like, we put the fear in you to where you make sure you don't run the ball. But like I said, secondary's getting healthy. AB's coming back. We'll be all right.
Oh no, definitely. They look like they're going. And Leonard Fournette was just balling yesterday. And unfortunately, Ray, as a Jacksonville fan, it's hard to see Leonard Fournette playing real well in someone else's jersey. I would imagine.
Yeah, he's just trying to get his money. He don't 1-year contract. He's trying to get that money.
No, they definitely look good. But I mean, are the Colts a viable team in the AFC at least to make a playoff spot, Ray? I mean, did you see anything out of them that could tell you that they could make the playoffs at least?
Well, they're playing in the AFC South. The only team that really competitive in the AFC South is the Titans. So, and if Derrick Henry don't come back, I don't see the Titans be really competitive either. Because I mean, their last few games they needed a running back to push out some wins. They lost to New England on Sunday. So I mean, to me, I think they are contenders. They're probably the only 2 teams out of the AFC South that can actually make a playoff run. So I mean, everybody else is just ferocious. I mean, the Jaguars can't get out of their own way, you know, to get any kind of win.
Right.
They got 2 wins. You know, the team that played against Buffalo is not the team that have shown up the last 2 games. So, I mean, right now, I think AFC teams right now are going to be the ones playing for the wild card spots.
Right. No, definitely. Well, speaking of the Patriots and Titans, the Patriots took it to the Titans yesterday. The Patriots look really good. It looks like Belichick's got that system clicking. They're playing good defense. You know, that quarterback looks like he's built for that system. Tony, I mean, you know, looking at is New England back? Is New England for real? Is New England the best team in the AFC right now?
No. And I'm going to say it because really, if you look at New England's schedule, I mean, they were what 2-4. They had an overtime loss to Dallas, and then really, who have they kind of faced after that has been like a major kind of upset? I mean, they faced. Let's see, hold on. Sorry. So they beat the Titans. They beat the Titans yesterday.
Without any other starters, basically.
Yeah. On this win streak, who have they beaten? They beat the Jets, which, okay, it's the Jets. It's going to happen. You beat a Chargers team that is up and down. I mean, you really can't even say that the Chargers are even consistent. You beat a Panthers team that has completely spiraled down ever since their 3-0 start. They beat the Browns, which same thing. The Browns are also searching for an identity. Baker Mayfield is constantly hurt. The Browns are not the Browns that they were last year. They beat a miserably pitiful Atlanta Falcons team. And the only reasonable win that they've had in this 6-game winning streak is they beat the Titans yesterday. And if you think about it, who was the last team to beat the Titans when the Titans didn't have Julio Jones, they didn't have A.J. Brown, when they didn't have their big names at their positions, and that was the New York Jets. So to me, I think people are hopping on the New England bandwagon a little too quickly. Patriots still have to face the Bills. They have a bye week. Then they face the Colts. Then they face the Bills again. Then they face the Jags and the Dolphins. So, I mean, really, the next 4 weeks, you have your biggest divisional opponent. And to me, growing up in Indianapolis, I watched a lot of those Brady versus Manning games. And not going to lie, I didn't really want Brady to win because I'm not a big Brady fan, but I didn't really want the Colts to win either because Colts fans were a bunch of not nice words, as I'm going to put it, because I don't want to get censored and PG and whatnot. But I didn't really want the Colts to win because the fans were not exactly tolerable. I think everybody needs to kind of pump the brakes. You look at the Patriots schedule. They were third place in the AFC East last year. You're going to face a third place schedule as far and you have the Jets in your division. Like you're guaranteed 2 wins. The Dolphins have been hit and miss. I could easily see them beating the Dolphins. As far as the rest of their schedule with the Jags and Dolphins, they maybe might win those 2 games, but I see them going on a 3-game losing streak with having to go to Buffalo the bye week, then they go to Indy, and then they host Buffalo. I see them with a 3-game losing streak and then finishing what 9-8. So
interesting, but 9-8 might get them in. I mean, Coach, Coach, you had an interesting reaction to that, losing the next 3, winning the next 2. So what do you see with New England? Because they're going to play Buffalo on Monday night. They got the bye week, as you said, the Colts, and then Buffalo again. And you know darn well that Belichick's, whatever happens in this first Buffalo game, he's going to prepare even better for the second Buffalo game.
No, I have them actually losing 3, but I had them beating the Bills one of the games. But I had them actually losing to the Dolphins because one thing about it, I don't know why the Patriots always lose in Miami. Like they always, for some reason, have struggled to lose in Miami. And Miami's coming along, they're catching it. So I'm with Tony. I agree with him. I said it from the beginning. I'm not a big Patriots fan. I said Matt Jones fit the offense, but when you play a team with a good defense, that they can't get separations from the receivers. And that's one thing about it that has been a knock because you played the Cowboys. I mean, they had a pick 6. even though old boy came at the end and got burned the second time, but he should have made another stop. I mean, even the Patriots. I mean, even when they played the Bucks, same way. Like they made stops. So I don't really see. I see the Patriots making to the playoffs, but I got them. Depends on who they playing. They're gonna lose our first, second round. A lot of it is because it's Bill and New England. So everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, they're back! They're back! They're back!" No, pump the brakes. The one thing you can say, I have to give credit to the NFL. They did a great job with the scheduling. Because usually by around this time you have 5 or 6 teams that you know they're going to the playoffs. Now it's like it's up and down. Like take the Rams. Rams lost. They have a chance not to make the playoffs. Like and they only won what? They only lost 3 or 4 games. I mean that's the thing. That's what's so crazy about the schedule this year. Like you can go and pick games and be like, oh my God, everybody lose. But I'm not sold on Bill. I've never been sold on Bill. I said it. I like the quarterback, but I don't think they're going to do anything for the next 2 or 3 years.
Interesting. Well, you're talking about the Rams, so let's move on to the Rams and Packers from last night. In my opinion, I think the Rams coach is trying to be the smartest guy in the room, and I think he's getting too big for his britches because some of the play calling last night and some of the things he did made absolutely no sense, Ray. I mean, I don't know if you got a chance to see any of the game yesterday, but it was some of the play calls. I'm just like, what are you doing? He's like taking fourth down chances too early in the game where he didn't have the field position for it. And I mean, that's how I see what's going on with that team right now. I think it's in disarray. It's an all-star team without any cohesiveness. Is that what you see?
Yeah, I see a little bit of that. And plus, Adams was taking Ramsey to school. I mean, last night too. I mean, some of them catches he was making over Ramsey.
Well, he's probably arguably one of the best receiver in the league.
So you look at it that way, and then you get too much pressure on Rodgers. I mean, with Aaron Donald got there a couple times, but they were blocking him pretty handily. So I mean, I think to me, McVay was, he's supposed to be this offensive guru type guy. He thinks he can beat anybody with any kind of different plays, any kind of play call. And then they got Odell Beckham Jr. come in. So now you think you got one of them top-notch receiver, but I think Beckham has just lost steps, and he's not fully recovered back yet from all the injuries he had. So I mean, if you look at it that way too, and then I think they said it last night, and it holds true. When the Rams lost Woods, they lost their team. Yeah, because Woods was the heart and soul of that wide receiver core, and now you still got that one guy,
Cooper
Kupp. You still got him, but they took him out on that one punt. They took him out, and the dude fumbled the ball.
Right.
So I mean, why you take him out? Out of the punt return, that right there turned something around that game too, because he fumbled the ball and the Green Bay recovered, and he scored right off that turnover. So if you look at it, to me, they had key turnovers in key situations, and it just couldn't recover.
Exactly. Stafford's awful. Matt Stafford the last couple of weeks has looked like inept, very very just wide-eyed, very just, where is he? Like all of a sudden, like you swear, oh, he's playing in Detroit again, the way Matt Stafford's been playing the last couple of weeks. You know?
What'd you say?
I said Stafford's been playing like just wide-eyed and like just not the way he started the season. He's definitely been playing like he's in Detroit.
Coach is wanting to remind Landon.
To answer that question right there, though, too, I think Stafford lost his some people got the tight end as their comfort level, and I think when Woods left, I think his confidence level left with him.
Well, he's supposed to be an all-pro quarterback, Pro Bowl quarterback. He's got to recover. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't have anybody against Arizona, and he went out and beat Arizona. So, I mean, it's just showing the level of quarterbacks in this league, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't practice all week. He's got a broken toe or whatever kind of toe, and goes out there, runs for a touchdown. I mean, Tony, they're saying that this Green Bay team is better than the team that he won a Super Bowl with. I mean, where do you see this Green Bay team going? I mean, they look like they can win a Super Bowl at this point.
I mean, they look like it, but kind of like Coach said, it only matters in the playoffs. And we've seen Green Bay in the playoffs. They're hot and cold. They either and to be honest with you, it took them this long for the defense to finally start to click. But all it's going to take is that one team or those two teams to figure out how to beat that defense, or they're going to lose one player that's going to completely make a difference as far as that defense either making it or breaking it. Because to be honest with you, statistically, yes, this has probably been one of the best teams that Rodgers has had as far as his Super Bowl win. But I would counter that with he doesn't have the wide receiver talent that he had when he won that Super Bowl either. Now, Coach, hold on. He had Donald Driver.
No, go. I know you're talking about. Go.
Okay. I thought you were looking at me like Helen Lazard is some great wide receiver. Like, no, come on, Coach. Come on, man. Because to me, the minute somebody figures out how to cover Devontae, it's over. I mean, you have a tight end in Tunyon. I mean, is he red zone for Aaron Rodgers? Yes. Is he red zone for anybody else? No. Same with Alan Lazard. Same with Valdez, Martellus Valdez Scantling. This is a Green Bay team that I think to me the biggest thing they lost is they lost the running game. AJ Dillon's not bad, but he's not Aaron Jones. That offensive line is completely banged up. Eventually it's going to get to the point where when you cause pressure on Aaron Rodgers, that's when things are going to go bad. I mean, look at how bad he struggled against Washington. If Washington had an offense, I think Washington would have won that game because they gave Green Bay one heck of a run as far for their money. But to me, I'm going to say this to Freddie because I know Freddie was watching this and Freddie is talking about how Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. About time your quarterback decides to make a run, but he does it with a broken toe. So to me, that shows Aaron Rodgers is not going to make that big time decision when he needs to actually go back to a Super Bowl again. But again, like Coach said, it only matters in the playoffs. I think they'll go to the NFC Championship. I think they will choke once again, but that's just
wow. All right, Coach, what you got?
I think one of the biggest issues, and I'm gonna start with the Rams because I always had it. I said Rams. It's because to me, NFC is all about matchups. I think the Rams can lose to the Bucs and the Packers. I'm saying honestly, truthfully. Well, I really thought the Rams could play good against the Packers. One reason why is because for some reason, your best DB wasn't guarding your best receiver. And then it wasn't even guarding the second best receiver on the team. It was like on some nobodies. So I don't understand. That was like real kind of confusing. One. Secondly, I think Sean McVay has got past happy because he got Stafford. He needs to go back to how he had Goff, and they ran the ball. No matter what, they ran the ball, and they find ways to run the ball. Mm-hmm. I think because now, even with you see Rams, they go 4 wides, 5 wides with a tight end. Like you're spreading it out. I said it from the beginning. Matthew Stafford, you have to control him because he thinks his arm is better than he can throw it in anywhere. But now the thing about the Packers is, if you see even in the playoffs when they play the Bucs, one thing about the Bucs, they're gonna stop the run. So now that you can't run the ball, what's the next thing they do? They're going to get it in your face. They're going to press. Regardless of the situation, they're going to press. If you look at what Green Bay does, Green Bay runs a lot of screens. They run a lot of quick drags across the middle, and then they try to beat you over the top if they can catch you in it. That's one of the things that Green Bay does, which I thought, I'm not going to lie to you, I thought the Rams could have done something with that. Just as the fact matter, you got physical corners, you got a D tackle, you got two. Let everybody tell you got these 2 pass rushers because their names sound good, but I don't see it. But like I said, I had Green Bay. They're losing. I have them losing second, third round, depending on who they match up with. But I don't see. I think we give too much credit to Aaron Rodgers. I want to give it to the head coach because he calls a hell of a game. I think right now his play calling and everything else and what he's doing, you got to give him top 5 coach, top 3 at that coaching, because he's done it without Aaron Rodgers. He's done it without his running backs. Like Tony said, the lines beat up, running backs hurt, receivers were out, but they're still finding ways to win.
No, definitely. It's it's going to be interesting watching both these teams down the stretch the last couple of games of the season. This should be interesting. One more game. Go ahead, Ray.
Can I get one other note on that? Matt LaFleur has never lost 2 consecutive games in his 3 years at Green Bay.
He's a good coach, and I'm gonna say this, and now I'm gonna leave it at the end. Go ahead.
All right, cool. One more game I want to touch on from yesterday because we're running out of time is the Baltimore-Cleveland game. Now, this game was ugly, was unwatchable at points, and then amazing to watch Lamar Jackson at points. To me, just Baker Mayfield, to me, it's just his head is not even – he's not a starting quarterback in this league anymore. I just think his head is – I mean, I know physically he's hurt, but I think mentally he's just not there. And I can't see him getting re-signed by Cleveland. I don't know what's going to end up with him, but I just can't see that. But Lamar Jackson throws 4 interceptions yesterday and still makes those, I mean, for lack of a better term, those street yard football plays. I mean, the touchdown that he threw to Andrews in the end zone, basically he's scrambling around, throws it up. Cleveland defensive back mistimes it. Andrews jumps up, catches the ball in the end zone, touchdown. Baltimore goes up. It's crazy. So, I mean, but again, the same kind of thing we were talking about earlier about playoffs. Can this Baltimore team win in the playoffs playing like this? I'll start with you, Ray.
To me, no. They made too many mistakes, and Cleveland just didn't capitalize on those mistakes. I mean, if you look at it this way, I mean, Cleveland should have capitalized on half of those mistakes he turned over and stuff. But like you saying, Baker Mayfield, I think his commercials are letting him to his head too. So, I mean, his head's getting big because if you look at Baker Mayfield, what he did in college to NFL now, it's totally different two players.
Right.
And to me, I think he's just overmatched in some areas. The kid can be clutch sometimes. The kid can be awful sometimes. And right now, he's been playing awful. I don't know if his injuries could be affecting him mindset-wise, too. But, I mean, he overthrew Landry like 3 or 4 times that Landry was wide open. I mean, he's just not making the throws that he's capable to make.
No, he's definitely his head in the wrong spot. Coach, I mean, obviously someone like Lamar Jackson with his skill set, you have to coach him, but you have to let him play his game. But is letting him play his game going to be the detriment of this Baltimore team come playoff time?
Yeah. I mean, if you really look at it, even these last couple of games, he hasn't been able to run the ball. Like him himself. Like the running backs was getting yards, but they're saying, hey, let's see if you can actually really throw it. And I think two of the picks, well, one of them I know for sure it was just accuracy. He threw it so far inside when the tight end went out. So it's just understanding the passing game. I think that's going to be the knock. That's going to be the thing that's going to hurt him in the long run because he's going to have to be able to throw the football.
How do you solve that problem as a coach? I mean, you could teach him, but how do you solve it in a game situation?
No more choice routes. Like they have to, don't give the routes that they're running. You can't give them options. They have to run the exact route. So at least now he's not thinking, oh, I thought he was gonna cut in or he's gonna throw. Because you see him, he up there looking and he's pointing and I thought you were doing this. So at least they got to be whatever they run is what they run.
Right.
And you just live with it. And then after that, if you see him scramble, I mean, you do a scramble drill, so you just get open. It's a freestyle. I mean, but we can't run choice routes with him because he can't really tell the secondary. He can't read the coverage that well.
Right.
So he's kind of hesitant, but just run regular routes.
Interesting. I didn't know that was called a choice route. I learned something new tonight. There you go.
Yeah, because basically is one with the tight end. He has to read it. If the safety came down, he would just kept going over. He would have went over the top. Instead, when he saw safety was bailing, next read is the outside linebacker. So the outside linebacker stayed inside, so he went out. But Lamar threw it inside, thinking he was going to pretty much run it in. That's why he was like, hey, you're supposed to go in. But no, he did it right. So you can't – he can't read it. He's not on that level yet. Maybe a year, 2 years later, maybe so. But right now, you can't run choice routes with him. Because if you see, they just – like the one he threw in the end zone, that was just a drag across the middle. He saw the ball and he came back to it, got open. I mean, he can read those. And like if you see all his backyard freestyle throwing the ball, like they're either stopping or they're going to where they're supposed to go.
Interesting. Oh, cool. See, I would have never picked up on that. So thank you for educating me and the viewers tonight. Cool.
No
All right,
problem.
one more thing I want to touch on is the Cowboys outbreak, the COVID outbreak they have in their camp. Coach is smiling. Dallas lost this past week. Basically, they were down 2 receivers, and they made it close, but they lost in overtime. Now with Coach McCarthy out this week because of COVID, Tony, do they have better clock management with Dan Quinn in charge this week?
Yes, they do. Because Dan Quinn knows how to manage a clock. Honestly, you know what I need Mike McCarthy to do while he's in quarantine, while he's getting over COVID? Play flipping Madden. Just play Madden. Play Madden. Watch how Madden does it. Call your damn timeouts when you need to. Stop doing all this wasting time, wasting clock management. Stop doing that. Just play Madden. That's all I need you to do. Personally, me, I don't know if I would necessarily want Dan Quinn as my interim head coach. I mean, I know he's got the experience. He was head coach of Atlanta. He got fired from being the head coach of Atlanta. He took that team to a Super Bowl to he got fired midseason. You know who I would really love to see take control of the team and see how well he would do? I want Kellen Moore to take control and see how he'd do. Let that man run team. If he's hot garbage with it, okay, fine. You're a great coordinator. Fine. That is what it is. But I know, and Coach is smiling because he and I already know Jerry Jones ain't gonna do that. Jerry Jones not gonna sit there and he wants Mike's big funny dude, go out, have a beer, like 6 cheeseburgers by the look of Mike's body. He going out having 6 cheeseburgers with old Jerry Jones. But I would want Kellen to do it because I think if Kellen was in charge, Kellen would be calling the plays. He would run the offense. I think there'd be better clock management. Me personally, as a person, am I upset for Mike McCarthy? Yes. As a Cowboys fan, am I upset? No.
Wow, that's a pretty strong words. It seems like a bunch of these teams have had these outbreaks, so they need to get this under control because I have a feeling that there's going to be an outbreak during the playoffs, and one of these teams who are stacked for the playoffs is all of a sudden going to be down. And there goes their championship. So we will see. All right, I just want to touch on the Monday Night Football game real quick. It's not a real appealing game tonight. Seattle at Washington. The Seahawks are not the same team they used to be. Russell's not having a good year. Washington is 4-7, just not having a good year. So just give me a Coach Ray and Tony. Just give me a quick take about the Monday night game and a quick prediction. Yeah, we'll start with you, Coach.
Honestly, truthfully, I pick Washington. I don't trust Russ. I know right now the score is 7-3, but I'm still gonna ride with my pick. I really don't trust Russ right now. I sure don't trust that defense for Seahawks. Because one thing about Seahawks defense, they either gonna be good in the first half and they're gonna suck the second half. I'm gonna have points. I got Washington win by 3. How about that? That's close I can get you. I don't do points.
All right. Well, the line was Seattle -1.5. So you have Seattle. You're taking Washington plus the points. All right, Ray. Quick little take on who you got tonight.
Yeah, like you said, I think Seattle's in disarray. I think the rumors are going around if Russell Wilson is going to be traded or not, or if he's going to be let go. Be traded during the offseason. I think that's really affecting his play. But their offensive line is atrocious in Seattle. I mean, they can't get nothing going on the running game. They can't protect him. He's always on the move. That's the reason he got injured first time. So I think Washington's a better football team, even though they don't have that superstar pass rusher in the game. I think he was injured. So I don't know if he's out for the year. So, I mean, still, I think Washington could come back in the end. Heineke, their starting quarterback, has done pretty good, in situations last year and in some of the situations this year with that big contract, with that big win they had, so over Tampa Bay. So, I mean, I think they could come back and do it. So, I mean, they're playing in the old RFK Stadium, really. The FedEx Field up there, that stadium is atrocious. I've been to a couple games up there. I was there when Marino played. Marino played Washington, and the seats. So if you sit in the nosebleed section, you better bring some binoculars because you can't see from up there.
Yep.
Interesting. Tony knows that stadium. Interesting. All right, quick take on Washington and Seattle tonight, Tony.
Yeah, I've done a few military presenting the colors at FedEx Field, and it is not a great stadium. I'm gonna go with the opposite of everybody. I'm gonna pick Seattle. I say this because they came back from a bye week. Russ is starting. He came back from the injury. They had to face Green Bay. He played terrible. That's a terrible place to have to start. Then he played Arizona right back. I think this is a bounce back game for Russ. This is a defense that has completely and totally underperformed as far as Washington goes. I think offensively, Seattle can still do it with DK and Tyler Lockett. against really, if you look at Washington, even if their pass rush was solid, their secondary has always been a question for them, even with the addition of Fuller and whatnot. So to me, I'm going to actually go with Seattle over Washington purely because I've watched a lot of Washington offense. It doesn't exist. I don't trust Washington's offense for anything. They have Terry McLaurin, and that's it. That's all Washington has.
Interesting. Yeah, I like Washington tonight at home, and just something. I like this Taylor Heineke kid. I like the way he's been playing. He just kind of plays without a care in the world. He knows that. He knows that this is my chance. He's just trying to prove himself. And he's definitely been playing pretty well this year. So I definitely like Washington plus the points. All right, well, that is our time, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been an amazing show. Thank you all, fellas, for bringing in as you always do tonight. We'll see everybody next week. Next week, we will have the final college football poll and find out who is going to the playoffs, who is not. Should be another interesting week of sports this week. There's been some big Major League Baseball signings, so we'll see how that carries over the week. And everybody just have a great week, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
We're out.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we're making a plays. We're talking the game, get you through the days. We're out in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your face.